We were talking about the UFC show. Obviously, we were watching New Japan. We'll talk about the Evil Naito match in a moment. But while it did not break records, it does look like the UFC 251 show this weekend, allegedly 1.3 million buys.
I'm kind of skeptical of that number right now. The ESPN number was a little under 900, so I don't know where 1.3 comes from. But, it could be over. I mean, if it's, let's say, 875, it could be with worldwide numbers, 1.1. I could see that. And it's a great number, but I don't know where 1.3. I was told 1.3, but it doesn't really add up. I mean, I've never heard of 425,000 international buys. I mean, even for George St. Pierre, when you have the big Canada numbers, never came close to that. So, and it's not like, Masvidal and Usman are big international stars. So, I'm very skeptical of that number, but, I have my theories, but anyway, but yeah, it did, just under 900 in the United States, and which is good. It's very good. It's not 2 million, but it wasn't going to do 2 million. I think that was kind of a ridiculous prognostication. It did. I think that's probably a little over what would have been expected, not a lot over. I do think that UFC benefits greatly with all the sports bars shut down, because all those people in the sports bars, a great number of them they want to see the show, so they're going to buy the show. So it actually, if UFC never played in sports bars, I'll tell you what, the one thing that the pandemic has shown to me is that if UFC never played in sports bars, they'd probably make a lot more money, because they make money off the sports bars. They make good money off the sports bars. But I don't think that all that money, I don't know that it's the same as if all those people, or a lot of the, if you're adding, let's say, on a show like this, you're adding, 200,000 buys or 150,000 buys that you wouldn't get before. That's 150,000 buys is, at $65 is close to 10 million, right? It's, hold on. Yeah, just under 10 million, 9.75 million. So, that's a lot of money. Masvidal, I don't know what his cut was of this, but he is probably super happy because he got, he signed for a big cut of the pay-per-view money. So, and he was responsible. I mean, I'm sure that they are, what would I say? Probably double what they would have done without him, I think. So he was, he's proven to be a tremendous draw. Probably number 2 draw in the company right now, behind McGregor, or number 1 if McGregor's retired. But no one really believes that. So actually, you could make an argument for doing a McGregor and Masvidal fight, just to do it. It would probably do, with the build-up and the talking and everything like that, that would do a giant number. That would do bigger than, let's see if, McGregor could be, actually I think McGregor would do more, but it would do, and I think Masvidal probably wins that fight. So it does hurt McGregor to a degree if he wants to do it. But I could see UFC going with McGregor and Khabib, which is that is a bigger fight. And then, where Masvidal goes, Masvidal has said that he won't fight Covington. Covington and Masvidal is probably the best fight I could think of, other than, unless you bring back George St. Pierre, for Masvidal, which would be a good way to rehab him. I have no idea if George goes for that fight, though. I mean, he's been out for a long time, And from his standpoint, I don't know that he has no need to come back for a fight like that with a guy who's, in his prime and everything like that. I mean, George and McGregor, would be a great fight. A bigger drawing fight than that one, and they never got around to doing that one. So I think that George is pretty much done. So, but yeah, it's a great number, and I guess pay-per-view's not dead after all. When did they first tell you pay-per-view was dead? How many?
I think a
decade ago?
For sure. I mean, prior to the WWE Network. So, yeah, it's probably been at least a decade.
But WWE Network's not been a decade. That was what, 2014?
Well, it's 2012
when they first started.
I mean, let me see here. I may be wrong by 2 years.
I think it started around 2014.
Let's see. The WWE Network officially launched, let's see, in 2014.
Yeah, 2014. But the people were saying pay-per-view was a dying business long before that. And I mean, they the price for this thing, it was $65 show. Plus, if you're not an ESPN Plus subscriber, it's another $5. Although pretty much everyone, I think every UFC fan's an ESPN Plus subscriber at this point, because you just sort of have to be if you're a UFC fan. So, you're talking about, and unlike with the old pay-per-view model, I mean, the one thing that has happened, which really I think McGregor kicked in, is that there was an aversion for the first several months from people when they switched from television to streaming, because the numbers were terrible at first. They were about half of what the television numbers were. But in time, the people were going to get used to it. And I think like the McGregor fight with Cerrone was probably the one that really brought everyone in. And once you know how to do it and it doesn't daunt you anymore, then you're going to do it. Once you've done it once, you'll do it again. So now they're pretty much, I think, at that same level. And the difference now is that the cable companies aren't getting half of it. I mean, ESPN's getting it, and ESPN, as it turned out, that $200 million that ESPN's paying a year for that franchise looks like it's a deal, because this fight alone, if we say that this thing did 875,000 buys at $65, it's $57 million right there. So you're getting, and the whole year's only has to be 200. And I know there's other costs and things like that involved in this thing, but still, you do 3 of those shows a year, 3 shows in that ballpark a year, and they've already done, the Ferguson fight was a 7. The McGregor fight was over $1 million. So you've had 3 real big ones already, and you still got Cormier and Stipe, which is going to do very well. And, who knows what they've got for the rest of the year. And the small ones, ever since the pandemic started, the small ones are even doing good because, again, people don't go to sports bars anymore. And also, if it was 5 to 8 people per household before, I'm not sure that number is nearly as high. And a lot of those people, wind up being double, where you might have 5 to 8 people, maybe you get 2 buys instead of 1 out of them. So, I mean, everyone thinking that the pandemic was going to kill pay-per-view. It's, as far as that aspect goes, it's actually been, that's one industry where I think it's been the opposite, and strongly. So, there you go. But yeah, I think the Cormier Stipe fight's going to do real well next month too.